Tuna mtoto. Hey. Oh God. Hey bro, ulikuwa unasema vile unaweza baiwa nyama.
Ukitaka kubaia nyama, unaenda pale kwa M-Pesa. Ni 0706830991. Una support Johnson, una support nature. Ni Johnson family, Johnson J.
Na watu, nenda na mbele. Afisa anajua niko njaa. Afisa anajua niko njaa. Afisa anajua niko njaa. Maandamano ndio hii. Afisa anajua niko njaa. Ndio hii. Hii wale wengine kuonyesha wananchi. Nilikuwa na kuchapa. Nikukuta hao. Sana niko live. Nilikutia hivi.
You're watching the live proceedings coming to you live from the Nairobi Central Business District, where the security officials are clearing off the road that the protesters had managed to block. And this is along Kimathi Street in Nairobi Central Business District, where we are keeping an eye on the developments not only across the city county of Nairobi but also across the country. We have Emmanuel Toh, who is monitoring the situation in the CBD. Melita Oletenges is on the far-flanked areas of Kitengela and Mlolongo. Marianne Nyambura will be live for us from the county of Nakuru. Francis Mtalaki will give us an account from the port city of Mombasa, while Laura Otieno has since morning been monitoring the county of Kisumu following the countrywide demonstrations that were called for by the Gen Zs and the youth-led demonstrations that had gripped the country partly much of last month in June and the extension into the month of July, denouncing some of the government's policies and measures, including what we'll be talking about here on the broadcast this afternoon, as we as well keep an eye. Between largely 18th of June and the 25th, which had prompted the government to walk back on some of the major policies that it had announced, including how parliamentarians have been put under sharp focus in what the protesters had said is the shocking institutional failure of a parliament in undertaking its mandate, rather warming up to the executive and largely State House, where they said was the main problem, lacking the representation part, and now
katikati hapa. Usiseme. So ni kukuatisha kabisa. Unaona kama huyu. Mawe. Unaona mawe alafu kijana arudi kwao. Pada katikati hapa.
Concession on some of the major policies, including the withdrawal of the finance bill after it was confronted with the demonstrations that were largely driven by the youth. In a nutshell, are we watching an emboldened citizenry that is making use of Article 37 of the Constitution through engagement in the civic space and demanding good governance from those in authority?
Thank you so much, Amri Kadir. And indeed, as you've rightfully said, that's purely what we are looking at. And beyond Article 37 of the Constitution, we are also focusing on Article 35, purely on access to information. And this is because citizens of the Republic of Kenya are now getting much more knowledgeable about governance processes. Mm-hmm. They are becoming much more aware about government performance and implementation programs, and they are getting a little bit organized in terms of how to hold their governments accountable, and much more fundamentally is to also look at what the role of the citizens is insofar as the various programs of government are concerned, and really about how to make their voices to count. And this is premised on a number of constitutional aspirations, where we also look at sovereign power of the people of the Republic of Kenya in terms of Article 1.1 and really the roles of institutions. And one of
good governance, and largely what appears to be the political class now getting back and more or less recycling back to the mode in which they ought to have been advocating for good governance. I mean, it ought to have been straightforward, is it, given the architecture of governance we have, which was straightforward?
outright and very straight issues of impunity, just bare lack of adherence to the rule of law. Issues around corruption, where you have programs that have been budgeted for, and people come and say, we don't want it done this way. In fact, we don't want it at all. But if you really have to do it, then how about you listen to us and you take into account our recommendations and also our voices? And government just outrightly goes out and decides to do whatever it wants to do. And if you look at, for instance, issues around once we vote our leaders into office, we normally expect that there is going to be an induction process. And as County Governance Watch and other stakeholders, we have participated in some of these induction processes, both for the national government leadership and really specifically at the county government levels. But if you look at even the interest of the elected leaders, the politicians, to want to learn about how to run government, to want to learn about how to do a budget, to want to learn about what really public participation means, that interest is really diminished at that level. And so you meet some of them and you ask them, but sir, why were you not there? Why did you walk out and this is a four days session and you only attended the opening session? So, and the gentleman or the lady just outrightly tells you, I just came for the opening to sign in so that I'm able to get my per diem. And so that really gives you the kind of people that we have entrusted our leadership in, and the kind of people that we probably believe and hope that will be able to give us the best. And unfortunately, the citizens are slowly beginning to realize that we also have a responsibility in terms of how we vote, and that we can ultimately exercise this power to even recall them. And in a number of places, in a number of counties right now, about 6 of them, we have received reports of citizens now organizing to recall their members of county assemblies in one of the 290 Are there lessons that we think will be able to inform how we therefore move forward in terms of our leadership and our governance? Are there lessons that even the political class are learning in terms of how they represent their people? Because Abdikariri, you realize that the protests that we have seen, particularly focusing on the finance bill, are purely political class made. Because we attended in terms of monitoring some of those public participation processes on the finance. Important stakeholders? Are we really as important partners in this particular process? And that is where the citizens are beginning to realize that are really
assurance given by the chairperson of the committee, Molo MP Kuria Kimani, that this is not mere cosmetic exercise, that look, you Kenyans, we are going to consider some of your proposals that you had presented before us, but then you realize their conduct is not in tandem with what they ought to be doing. I mean, is this then a time to rectify the shocking institutional failure by Parliament?
It is. It is the right time. In fact, if that time were to be analyzed, the time to have rectified these things was yesterday. And it's therefore really, it borders on us as a people to begin to think through some of the aspects of governance that we are not doing in very well. For example, public participation. And one of those very distinct elements, Abdikariri, is the fact that we do not have a policy on public participation. We do not even have a national law on public participation. And so despite people should be working. But Nairobi, for instance, is closed. Kisii is closed. Kitengela, all these places are closed. It's quite disturbing.
Yeah. All right. And the live features you're watching are from the Nairobi Central Business District. This is Kimathi Street, where police are engaging protesters. And this has been the situation since morning of the protesters who are waving the national flag, but are unable to penetrate the wall that the police have established. And you can see the photos of the protesters and the police, and who are lobbing tear gas, and we can listen into it before we get back to the conversation in studio.
Umeona mtu wa kama NTV hivi wa interview hatutaki kancho. Unataka kujangera askari zao. Sisi kanti tunataka kancho, tunataka tupate kama askari peke yao. Tunafika kwa Simba, utoa makanjo wote.
Kama state house hainati. Asikize. Nimesoma. Polisi afanye kazi yake. Kwani yetu haja na madamu. Kwa nini mnashatia gas? Kwa nini mnashatia gas? Kwa nini mnashatia gas? Sirushe tia gas. Hiyo ndio shida.
Kuna hoteli wako kwa building.
Any other stop?
And these are the live pictures from the Central Business District in Nairobi, where police are engaging the protesters who are demanding raft of changes from the government, as well as the live pictures from the county of Nakuru, where our team, Evans Asiba and Marian Nyambura, are standing by. These are the live shots coming to you from the Central Business District in Nakuru County, where since morning police and protesters have been engaging. And also we are keeping an eye on the county of Kisii, where you have just seen the live images on the broadcast, who have come out to protest against the government this Tuesday, calling for good governance and what they term as accountability in what's appearing to be a countrywide phenomena. Also in the county of Kakamega, protesters this morning had taken to the streets demanding for accountability from the county administration headed by Fernandez Barasa, calling for what they term as accountability on the measure of the finances and how the money that the exchequer funnels to the devolved units, including Kakamega, are accounted for in terms of development projects. And we are back to live at the CBD in Nairobi. This is along Kimathi Street, where protesters and police have been engaging, and also in the company are the reporters and their camera persons who have been with them. Now this is the shot on the part of Kenyatta Avenue, where police have been blocking the protesters from accessing, and this has been the similar event as we witnessed on the 25th of June 2024, when the protesters briefly overran Parliament, and the scampering for safety of parliamentarians who were forced to use the tunnel and to flee to safety, and the evacuation that had also led to concerns from members of Parliament. Now you are watching the live pictures from the intersection that links Kenyatta Avenue and Kimathi Street in Nairobi Central Business District, where our team is also keeping an eye on to give you an assessment of the events since morning here on Citizen Television. A summary of the events that had largely gripped the government confronted with the demonstrations that had denounced the Finance Bill 2024, which they say had contained punitive taxes, and the inability of their lawmakers and their representatives who did not listen to their input when they appeared before the Finance and National Planning Committee during the public participation exercise. And the bill, after it was passed by Parliament, was later withdrawn following the events of 25th, which led to the head of state addressing the nation from State House in Nairobi on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, the following day, 26th, where he said after consultation with the Kenya Kwanza Parliamentary Group meeting, they agreed to withdraw the finance bill. More than 40 people have been reportedly killed, mostly in Nairobi during the parliament. It's the situation in parliament where the precincts of the National Assembly and the Senate were breached by the protesters in Nairobi, leading to members of parliament fleeing for their safety, and largely they used the multi-million tunnel in running for safety. The protesters and the organizers are saying that despite withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024, they are calling for the term as an end to a culture of corruption, which is, according to them, deep-rooted and corroding institutions of government, and the aspect of injustice and inequality, which they say is largely a phenomena that continues to underpin the state. Stung by the degree of the protest, the president made major concessions, including the withdrawal of the bill, scrapping of the funding by the state for the office of the First Lady, coming to the X-Space on formerly Twitter to face the youth, and in a 2-hour discussion where he fielded questions and also disbanded his entire cabinet last week on Tuesday, awaiting for reconstitution of the cabinet. And this is after saying that he will go on a soul-searching spree to determine the fate of his cabinet and later to disband the entire cabinet. The head of state came to power with ambitious agenda for the youth, who today are disgruntled as they were during the previous administrations of unemployment, underemployment, sidelining, and the quality of jobs that they have anticipated after graduation from the universities. But that isn't the reality, according to many of them. And the lawmakers have, since the passage of the bill and the breaching of Parliament's precincts, have been forced to lie low in the aftermath of the voting pattern, and mostly from the Kenya Kwanza administration, and the shocking institutional failure by Parliament is what now the focus for the country's youth. The president yesterday said the Ford Foundation, which is American-based, is the cause of instability and chaos, saying that the stability and democracy of Kenya will not be undermined. He pointed at them as the engineers of chaos and anarchy, saying that if they are not interested in the enhancement of democracy in the country, then they either style up or ship out. Will call out all those, he said, who are bent on rolling back our hard-won democracy, when he spoke in Nakuru County yesterday. That is President William Ruto, and will be talking about that. Our battery of journalists are covering and across the country in the counties of Nairobi. Emmanuel To Oletenges is covering the situation in Kitengela. Marianne Nyambura is in Nakuru Central Business District. Francis Mtalaki is in the county of Mombasa, and Laura Otieno has been monitoring the situation in the county of Kisumu since morning. Kevin, coming back to you,
yeah.
And this, it seems that is largely touching at the nerve of our governance. And given the conduct of Parliament away from the public participation exercise, and which was largely the around the Finance Bill 2024 now withdrawn, in general, Parliament seems to have failed on the very 3 key thematic roles of representation, legislation, and oversight.
Sure, that's right. In fact, if you assess, because part of what we do at County Governance Watch is also to assess performance of the legislative arms of government. And this is both at national and also at county levels. And the 13th Parliament has not done very well, especially the National Assembly. And this is really geared towards looking at the indicator of passage of legislation. And if you look at even the
justice delayed is justice denied. We have had several incidences of students or protesters being abducted, disappeared with, and investigations thereabout are done for a period of 1 to 2 months. It disappears and it comes and it goes. So this we want to come up with side up with the Mbugo, whatever he's saying. We should go individually on these people, not coming as the government. You can clearly tell even from the parliament invasion that happened, there was a sniper that was identified from a group of protesters, and it was pinned down by the peaceful protesters. And he clearly, from the ambush that he was given, he came out clearly and told us who exactly sent him and where did he get the orders. So we also want to caution the police from to be very cautious when handling the civilian, the protesters who are just demonstrating. They're doing what rightfully belongs to them according to the constitution.
Mundalo, there are several Kenyans who have been injured and others have lost their lives. Yeah. What should the government do should they all be compensated without even, the person suing the government? And Wakili, perhaps just to clarify, is it possible for the government to come and compensate a victim when you have not sued the government, so that you get the actual damages in terms of figures?
That is the good show, a show of goodwill. If indeed they are honest, we should be seeing them do that, because I don't need to sue you and go through the whole litigious process of court and money and time. And the government knows and acknowledges that it's a human rights violation. The unfortunate part is, and the question should be, has the government acknowledged the violation of human rights and the use of police brutality? And I haven't seen any statement, whether from the head of state or any officer from the government, acknowledging that particular action.
What is your advice to the government?
I see what you did there, Joel. I think first of all, it is a sorry state that we have actually had people who have lost their lives.
It is quite disturbing, and it goes back to really the kind of people that we vote into office and what drives us to be able to vote. And so our political culture in terms of informing how we exercise that sovereignty, and indeed once the person has been given that mandate, how you also carry yourself in parliament. I think that really is an important concern that should be able to exert a lot of pressure on the people of Kenya to begin to think through how we vote, and even the indicator of leadership and political culture that we have as a people.
It's supposed to be peaceful. Then I don't think there is anything in law that then says that those who will be hurt will be able to go through this and this and this, because it is actually supposed to be peaceful. It is supposed to be a peaceful process. So what then happens is a show of goodwill from government, and we should be able to see that as government can just be able to come out and be able to say, yes, this and this was able to happen, but then there's that show of goodwill, like we were able to see with the policeman who was injured, and I was able to see some show of goodwill. We had some CSS who went to see the person. I think that was goodwill enough to the police. It should also extend to even the other people who are demonstrating. I was able to listen to the president on the X space, and he said that his government will not have any time, does not involve itself in abductions, it does not involve itself in killing of people during protests, and I think he came out rightfully on that. But then if that is the position of government, what Kenyans expect therefore is to see what action follows those words, that actually those ones who are kept culpable of this can actually be held to account. So it's about just ensuring that people who are able to do this are held to account. But the most of what we should be ensuring is not that people who die are compensated. We should actually be ensuring that nobody dies in the first place, because these are young people, and these are people who, every life, there is no life that is small enough. All the people deserve to be to be in the country, because they have their whole lives ahead of it. Remember, even we as a country, we need human resource. So the more the people who die, the more we reduce.
And the space of the citizens in terms of the petitions that people send to parliament, the kind of questions that even other agencies like DCI or DPP will raise around some of these people that are being vetted by parliament, and hence therefore how they take note of those kind of issues. And then lastly, still on parliament, is also the interference by the executive, where, for example, even as we speak right now, most of the politicians who are supposed to be seen to be in the opposition decry the fact that the executive has actually bought, quote unquote, some of their members. And so debate on some important issues
been tabled in Parliament by the National Treasury. However, there is a bit of a contradiction. President William Ruto said during a press briefing at State House that he would slash the budget by 177 billion. However, on the actuals, what was tabled in Parliament, or is before now the Budget and Appropriations Committee of the National Assembly that is led by Ndindi Nyoro, is only 156 billion that the government is seeking to cut. Why not the 177 billion that, he promised Do you read malice?
You know, Chacha, these are one of the reasons why we keep on, when we why you will see the undying spirit, the undying relentless spirit of the Gen Zs on the streets. Because
we can read between the lines.
We can read in between the lines. We have a president that whatever he says, for example, I assume this is Nyandarua, and in the next 10 minutes he's flown to Marsabit, he's going contrary, he's just going to speak the opposite. Like the president himself contradicts himself. Sooner or later you will hear that the budget again has been from the 156 that the control of Bandinti Nyoro is pushing for, it has again been slightly cut to maybe around 130 billion. So that it also allows members from the opposition side to begin debating on this here and there. It becomes a pull and push from both sides. So we don't have honest leaders.
I'll still be coming back to you, especially on the implication of us not cutting down the budget as we opt to, of course, being more debts, and hence we keep plunging ourselves into the debt hole that as a country we're facing. But allow me to now drop in Christian Musa from Kajiado, Kitengela. Christian, how's the situation so far? How's the demonstrations ceased? Has the transport actually been paralyzed still?
Yes, as you rightly said, there is that currently the situation remains running battles between the protesters and police officers, and as of now transport is still paralyzed along this Nairobi Namanga highway because the protesters have barricaded the road using stones and they are lighting bonfires. But so far we have seen quite an increase of the number of police officers who are taking charge, and they are trying to disperse unrelenting protesters who continue to pelt them with stones. Currently, as you can see, this is the Nairobi Namanga Road, which ordinarily is plied by hundreds of vehicles, but it has remained a battlefield now between police officers and protesters who maintain that they are here to exercise their democratic right of having good governance in the country. Earlier on, we had spoken to some of the protesters who maintain that they are not satisfied with President William Ruto initiatives just to engage Kenyans, and they say that they want to be engaged further. And so far, as you can see, police officers are trying to clear the Nairobi Namanga Road, and as they do that, some other protesters in some sections are putting more stones and barricading roads in different sites. And these are the live pictures of the situation here in Kitengela, Kajiado County. And we are still following just to see how the situation goes. So far, police are still using tear gas to disperse the rogue protesters as they try to clear the road, which have totally been barricaded, paralyzing transport along this route. Just to inform our viewers that the Nairobi Namanga Road is a crucial road as it connects to the neighboring Tanzania, to the neighboring country of Tanzania, and we have hundreds of trucks which ply this route every day just to bring farm produce from the neighboring Tanzania. But currently there is no movement at all since transport has been paralyzed. And we are still seeing the protesters are still engaging the police officers, and at some point, despite being lobbed with tear gas, they are still pelting them with stones just to fight back. And this has been the situation since 10 a.m. in the morning up to now. And to inform our viewers is that there are also peaceful demonstrations going on in Kajiado town, where hundreds of protesters have turned up to just express their frustrations with the government amid very tight security in Kajiado town. But the situation seemed to be chaotic here in Kitengela. So far, the protesters are also claiming that there is a protester who has been shot on the head. We have not been able to establish if that is the truth. So far, we have not been able to establish if indeed that is an injury that has resulted from a bullet, as claimed by protesters. And we are just looking at the situation here in Kajiado County, where we'll continue bringing you live pictures of what is happening as protesters continue engaging police officers. Also to note is that, observing from just our observation, we were able to see that majority of the protesters are youthful people who just stand up in numbers, in large numbers, and continue engaging police officers. And as of now, as we have seen some distraction. For instance, this is Pizza Inn, Kitengela, where protesters have been able to destroy property as they pelt police officers using stones. We are just seeing
that the people who voted for you made a mistake and that you're the person who is always right. Other than that, therefore, is to ask the citizens to begin to organize around spaces where we can be able to identify these leaders of integrity. And there are quite a number. The only challenge therefore that begs Abdikadiri is the fact that how our politics is done. It's a very dirty game sometimes. It's quite expensive and quite involving many times, especially when it comes to issues around security and or the insecurity related to the political games in our country. But that therefore means that we begin to ask ourselves, how can we shield? And we have seen citizens, given these past weeks, really shielding the people that they think speak for them. And if you look at some of the conversations that are taking place on X, or even some of the postings on certain social media platforms, they are already even having their own independent-minded vetting for people who are proposed or
stones. From a distance, you can see hundreds of protesters are still regrouping. They are still regrouping. Also there you can see the situation here. We can just see a desperate parent who is coming from school, maybe just to get their kids. Those are school-going children who've been caught up in this chaotic protest. We are just seeing 2 adults and a number of young children, uniformed children. Those are uniformed children who have been evacuated from schools. And to note, from our observation earlier in the morning, we were able to see most schools were not open today, but the few which remained open, we are seeing the kids there desperately making their way home as protesters continue engaging the police officers. The young children seemingly terrified of what is happening. And we are also seeing police officers now are taking charge in business premises. They are now taking charge in business premises rather than just being along the highway just to prevent looting.
Well, that was Christine Musa coming to us live from Kajiado, more specifically.
The president has been under siege from his week 1 of governance as a president of the republic. And this is because if you listen to his communication on a daily basis, he makes references to his cabinet.
But we believe with what has been proposed, it could be revised downwards to even 130 billion. Those are your projections. But this time round, you know, you, the youth, the Gen Z, have a chance to participate in the ongoing public participation. Have you done that? Or you'll come out later to lament that the budget committee has not factored in your views, whereas, you know, given a window, you come out and participate, you don't even attend those committee sittings.
I think, well, as the youth and the Gens of this country, I think we should create a better Kenya for all of us to know. And this involves by involving us as part of the stakeholders in everything that is happening. Because, for example, now I'd ask you, who represented the Gen Z and the youth in that financial bill that currently didn't know, the 150? Is it 156?
Okay, there was the finance bill and now this is the budget. So we have two committees in parliament, because I cover parliament. We have the finance bill and the finance committee, actually it's finance and national planning committee, and as well the budget and appropriations committee. One, then the finance is led by Kure Kimani, is the member of parliament, and the budget one is led by Ndidi Nyoro. And he's asking me a question. I actually participated in covering the finance in 2023 and as well in of 2024. It was open. It was open. I mean, the sittings were along Mombasa Road in one of the hotels. I just not remember them. But it was open to the public. In fact, we also had one at KICC.
Have you seen how people are being frisked to get into such places?
So that's what is there. But what are you carrying there?
No, we are not carrying anything there. But we want even that public participation, what we call public participation.
That's the key thing.
For you to get into that public participation in this country, you must have connection. I'm telling you that is the truth. We have the dialogue that's supposed to happen.
Have you made attempts to attend the budget one that is ongoing?
How will we attempt it? There's the national dialogue which has been scheduled. Do you think calling us for the dialogue thing is a big deal? No, it's not a big deal. What the question, who is going to represent us?
Do you feel the Gen Zs or your counterparts really understand the budget making process?
They understand, but not all. You can't assume. You know, let me tell you.
In law they say
ignorance is not an excuse. But, you know, it itself. Because, for example, the 177 which was supposed to be passed, how do you tell me, like, for example, I come from family, a peasant family. Why do you have to tell me that the land that my father inherited from his father and I'll also inherit it, I'll tax it, I'll be taxed?
That one was actually a different proposal and it was withdrawn. Our focus is specifically on these budget cuts that are now in the supplementary budget one, the 156 billion. There is an opportunity for us.
Whether the people who are in these offices or that have been given these offices trust that they are capable to deliver. And so it is a risky game, which I think the president is already bought.
Solutions that can help us.
Teachers going on strike.
Revolution and activists inside it.
Pastor.
security around some of these resources, even for the second.
Pata katikati hapo.
bwana. Acha. Wewe. Chunga hiyo. Chunga mawe. Sasa. Ah.